director James Bamford brings us Air Force One Down. This one stars Catherine McNamara, but also features Anthony Michael Hall. Hall was one of my favourite movies, Weird Science, back in the 80s, and has done less of these kind of geezer teaser type movies, so it's nice to see him in a fun supporting role in this low budget action movie. So what is the story? McNamara plays a Secret Service agent who is actually the niece of Anthony Michael Hall's character, and is effectively doing her first shift on Air Force One. But however, this is the one time where Air Force One is seemingly taken over by a kind of terrorist organisation, or kind of, you know, a kind of country kind of rebelling against kind of United States sanctions and things like this. So inevitably Air Force One gets hijacked, and it's up to McNamara to try and keep the president safe, both on and off Air Force One, as she is pursued by legions of terrorists, you might say. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss Air Force One Down. Now, this is a lower budget movie, so, you know, comparisons to movies like the Harrison Ford Air Force One movie are a little unfair. Yes, it's a similar kind of subject matter, but that obviously was a, you know, major Hollywood production, and you can't really expect the same level of production with kind of a movie kind of like this, even though the plots are kind of similar. What does work in this movie's favour? I think if you enjoy like a dumb action movie, this one will entertain you. It is an entertaining movie, albeit it's not a particularly kind of dramatic movie. But it is dumb fun. You know, there's lots of kind of fight sequences, lots of fisticuffs, lots of shootouts. Our president gets kind of, you know, a time to kind of be a hero himself. So there's lots of kind of like, you know, fun scenes that are kind of exciting and quite well choreographed. So that brings me on to the other thing, is this is obviously influenced by the likes of kind of John Wick and that kind of plethora of other John Wick-esque style movies that have come out since then. And it has that kind of kinetic kind of style action movies with the camera kind of following our stunt people round, and, you know, long takes and things like that. But considering this is a lower budget movie, you would expect it to kind of maybe not be as good. But I have to say, if there's one thing that this movie excels in, it is some impressive stunt work, and quite a lot of it. And again, I would say that considering the budget, because this is a lower budget movie. So yeah, there are some pretty well kind of photographed and acted and choreographed action sequences that do look very kind of, you know, aerobic and acrobatic, that I think you kind of quite enjoy. They're not the most realistic, admittedly, but they're kind of fun to look at. Yeah, so that was pretty good. Now, despite this movie having a somewhat kind of lower budget, it still manages to have a reasonable production value and still look kind of quite slick. I mean, it doesn't quite, you know, you look like you're looking at sets and things, but I have to say, I was never kind of taken out by the perceived kind of lack of budget, if that makes sense. If you can accept you're not watching an A-list movie, I think this movie's production value is fine. In regards to the kind of the acting and the kind of the character work here, I think again it's all fine. I think McNamara makes for quite a likeable kind of lead. I quite enjoyed the kind of the relationship between her and the kind of the president, and her and her uncle. I thought they had kind of quite a good relationship, kind of like candor, but kind of between them. And Anthony Michael Hall, you know, he's quite a kind of like respected sort of character act to that point. And although his role isn't massive in this, you know, he does bring a little bit of kind of gravitas. And it's nice to see, like, you know, you often have these like the Danny Trejos and Eric Roberts types in this. But it's nice to see someone like Anthony Michael Hall, who's not your typical kind of like recognisable face, if that makes sense, in these kind of like action movies. So I thought I kind of appreciated this. On a technical level, I think it's all very proficient. It's kind of like relatively kind of slick, and, you know, lighting's good, sound design, all that is tickety boo. Okay, so what doesn't work? Like I said, this is somewhat of a dumb action movie. If you want a semblance of dramatic tension or realism, then you may want to look elsewhere, because this is, I mean, this makes John Wick look like high drama. Let me just put it like that. And I like John Wick, but let's be honest with you, those movies are a little far-fetched. And this one goes even further than that, I would say. For example, I mean, we have our kind of bad guys, of which there are many. There are a lot of terrorists. This isn't like a small group here. There are a lot, because we have action both in Air Force One and actually almost an army's worth on the ground. And if you've seen the kind of the last act of Commando, where he kind of Schwarzenegger was mowing through all these you know, bad guys, this movie makes Commando look conservative. Let me just say this. I mean, stormtroopers are watching this movie, and I'm embarrassed about the high body count suffered by one person here. So yeah, I mean, like, Katherine McNamara's character is effectively like invincible in this movie. She rarely ever has much of a kind of a challenge. The bad guys here seem to fold like a kind of like a pack of cards pretty easily. There's never really anyone that kind of gives her a challenge, and she goes through them like a hot knife through butter. So the stunt work is very good, but it really lacks in that kind of dramatic tension. Now, you know, there's that kind of the realism argument. There's the fact that obviously because we feel like she's never really super challenged, that it lacks that kind of the stakes, because you just feel like she's effectively like a kind of a superhero. So, you know, it's kind of a little bit kind of very gigantistic is what I would maybe say, and just a bit silly, if we're being completely honest here. You know, it looks fine, but it is very, very silly, very, very dumb. I think there are some plot elements here that are just kind of glossed over. How easily it seemed to be for these kind of terrorists, or whatever you want to call them, to take over Air Force One seemed way too easy for me. Every other kind of Secret Service, you know, member seemed absolutely useless, with the exception of Katherine McNamara's character. And to be honest with you, even her uncle didn't seem to get the drop on pretty quick, pretty easily. So it was a little bit kind of like, you know, just the script was a little bit simplified. I'm trying to be kind here, but you get where I'm going with that one. You know, we have this kind of we have them coming down to Earth, effectively, and they decide to take refuge in like the one house. And I get that it's undercover, but it's like, obviously that's people where the bad guys are. Where could they be? The one kind of house that's in this kind of woodland area. Let's not sort of stay out in the woods and stuff and, you know, evade. Let's kind of go in the one structure in this particular kind of area. Things like this. So it's really sort of takes the cake a little bit when it comes to this kind of sort of silliness. Now, the low budget, I think, is okay if you don't mind kind of the low budget movies in general, straight to kind of like VOD and DVD fare. But it does have a little bit of a kind of a cheapness factor. I think the production value is fine for this kind of level of film. But if you are expecting a more of a, you know, a truly, you know, polished movie, then, you know, you're going to notice some kind of cheaper things here from time to time. So overall, I think this movie is watchable, as long as you don't mind turning off your brain, and that's going to be the key thing here. I think it's fine. I think it is a watchable action movie. It's well put together in regards to its stunt work, which I think is its biggest assets. But story-wise, it could have ratcheted up any type of drama, really given I think more of a threat maybe to the McNamara's character, and given her a little bit more of a struggle, which seemed a little bit too easy for her. Other characters just seemed to make dumb decisions and things. It's a 5 out of 10. It's kind of like an average straight to video or straight to kind of VOD movie. Not bad, watchable, but it's not going to be, I think, anyone's top 10 list at the end of the year. Have you seen it? Please do let me know what your thoughts are, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.